The opposite of hope is pain, being powerless, feeling stuck. I have felt those things. So when you have felt down and anxious and depressed and hopeless, you're looking for a solution. And the best reason I can come up with is I've felt that pain and that struggle and that challenge. And I want to spread hope.
Welcome back to Happy Brain. My name is Sean Block. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to have a great conversation with Melanie Yates. And this is part of our series where we're talking to people who not only have overcome depression and anxiety, but have learned tips and tricks to share with us so that we can learn from their journeys as well. Melanie is an author, a coach, and she has been sharing her wisdom for 10 years. We're excited to have her and enjoy this episode of Happy Brain. Cheers. We're doing kind of a special series helping people find some ways to build their resilience, overcome depression and anxiety, different tips and techniques. On this show, we're pretty light. Generally, we talk about, things that are going to make our brain happier, like EFT technique, different techniques we have in the world. But we're doing this series to really help people who might be struggling get to a place where they can start to embrace some of these different tools. So we're inviting awesome guests like you to share their story and to help us get to that place. So Melanie, I want to start with this. What feeling as a listener do you want us to come away with after spending some time with you this morning?
Hope.
Hope.
I want to invite everyone to just be willing and open and honest about receiving the gift of hope.
I love it. And Melanie, how did you come to this place in your life where you wanted to share these messages? You wanted to tell the world about hope and all these great things?
Well, the opposite of hope is pain, being powerless, feeling stuck. And I have felt those things. So when you have felt down and anxious and depressed and hopeless, you're looking for a solution. And the best reason I can come up with is I've felt that pain and that struggle and that challenge. And I want to spread hope. I think there's so many people that are hurting, and we've been trained to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just keep going no matter what. And so this kind of hope isn't this hope I'm talking about isn't ignore or pretend that you're happy when there's something there that is hurting. I think a lot of times we try to push it down, we try to numb, we ignore, and that's what happened to me. I was ignoring the pain because I want to be happy and I want everyone else to think I'm happy. And I used things outside of myself like alcohol, food, working to pretend, to ignore, to push down, to numb what was really going on. And it's not sustainable. And eventually that pain is going to come to the surface and it's going to come out sideways. Maybe it starts with the tone, the way you speak to people, and no one tells you. No one tells you that you're a jerk, right? They just slowly start backing away and you wonder why you don't have any friends, why no one cares about you, like stuff like that. It's lonely and it's isolating. And I just read this great article from the general surgeon, of the United States. And guess what? It's like an epidemic of people feeling lonely and isolated. And it turns out that this affects our health in a big way. That's why the Surgeon General has something to say about it. And I love how he actually invited us to take responsibility for this. And he said that strengthening our connections and our relationships is the way we overcome that.
Oh man, that really hits hard. Kind of getting back to when you started to realize, and I'm not saying you were a jerk at all, of course not. But when did you start to realize when you're waking up that you were maybe going through the motions, you weren't happy, you were starting to become detached or lonely or not having the relationships you want? What triggered that? What point did you start to realize there might be something else?
I just emotionally was sad. I felt, and I started feeling really angry. They say that under anger is always sadness. I think it manifested as blame and anger is when I really was like blaming other people that's why I'm not happy. That's how it started with me. I thought I was playing the victim, so to speak, and I was pointing fingers at this person is making me unhappy and this person is making me unhappy. And if they acted different, if they treated me different, I wouldn't have to be so unhappy and angry. And back then, I didn't have a lot of tools to deal with those relationships. And so I would push them down until I had enough anger that it came up. And then I had to blame and I had to play the victim. And it was not pretty. It really wasn't. I'm sure the people that had to listen to all the complaining and criticizing and comparing got sick of it. And that's what I mean by you don't even recognize that people are looking at you like they can see that something's wrong, but of course I would never admit that, because it's always somebody else's
Well,
issue.
can they also feel it? I mean, it's an energy thing, right? If you're not maybe pleasant to be around, you're not giving
Absolutely.
off good vibes.
And words are only a very small part of the way we communicate. So our tone and our body language says way more than our words do. And so even in my mind was saying, well, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. But my demeanor, my body language, my tone was really saying, I don't respect you. I hate you. Don't even talk to me. I had these, I had this energetic energy or um, facade that I was putting out there. And, the good thing about that is that your body language and your tone also can communicate something else. And it can actually help change the way you think about other people. Your mind actually responds quicker to body language. Uh, Body language is huge. So when people smile, your brain is getting a hormone release, a chemical release, it recognizes when we smile that we're happy. So, or we feel good, or we're excited. It automatically tells your brain, oh, this is good. This is, it releases those feel good chemicals in our body. So they've done so many studies on this. They would take random people and measure the stress hormones, and they would have no idea. Um, they would have no idea what the test or the study was about, but they would have people put a pencil or a pen in their mouth.
So they had to smile.
So they were smiling, but they didn't know, and they were, they were. So just by putting the pencil in their mouth and making them smile without them knowing they were smiling, they were measuring the stress hormone cortisol, and it went down.
Ouch.
And so you don't even have to feel like smiling, and it can reduce your stress.
Well, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but the place that we were, and I've been there, I still am at times, where the energy is, you're not spreading that into the world positively, you're kind of bringing it down, right? The opposite of dopamine and all that is probably, that regression, that feeling of just detachment and all that. That doesn't sound like a good place to be.
Exactly. And even body. So think about this. Just right now, think about whoever's listening, just be aware of what your shoulders are doing. Are you slouched? Are you using your best posture? Are you looking down? Are you looking up? That body language is telling your brain something. So when I get small, and I was even thinking of how my teenager is always, he's on his phone, right? So when you're looking at your phone, what is your body doing? It's kind of crouched forward. You're looking down. Your shoulders are rolled forward. So I tell him, like, can we, at the bare minimum, let's put that screen on a computer, or the TV is even better, because I'm not like this. I can actually.
What if, and I heard this from somebody, when you're scrolling and stuff, instead of scrolling down, like hold it up to eye level and scroll that way.
That changes your body posture.
Right.
That changes, because we don't want to, when we're crouched and hunched, what kind of self-esteem, body language is that telling my brain? And, men are actually better at the body language than women, because women have been taught to be small and petite, and that's ladylike, to cross your legs. Even folding your arms and crossing your legs is being shut off and closed off. And so it not only gives a signal to other people, it gives a signal to us. And so just practicing being big in the world, and you don't have to do this. I'm not talking about posturing when you see somebody. I'm talking about, like, in the bathroom stall, to practice being big. No one has to see this. It's for you. It's for your mind. And I've been training my mind to perceive and react and visualize life in a different way, so that I can have more hope, so I can spread more hope, so I have more hope to offer. And it is possible. I know it is possible, because there's been a lot of progress from the pain and struggle I was in to today. And it doesn't just go away. Like, life keeps showing up. Life keeps showing up. And so I have to keep learning and growing and making choices every day. And
Well,
I love this
let me
little
ask
phrase. Go
let me
ahead.
ask you this. Sorry, not to cut you off, but this is kind of in the flow of this conversation. All right, I'm listening to this and I hear you, and I think these are all great strategies, but I just want to start to get there. So what advice do you have for people who are right now really struggling? They're trying to hear you. They're suffering with anxiety or depression, and they just really are overwhelmed right now. What are some small steps that they can start doing, Melanie, to help us? Because we're feeling it right now.
Connection and relationships. What could you do today to connect to another human being? This is probably the most important thing that you can do when you're feeling bad. Feeling lonely and isolating is the problem. So when we feel bad and we're anxious and depressed, we want to pull back. And that connection with another human being, and it doesn't have to be big, people. You do not, I'm talking about when you go to the grocery store, like, what could you say to the person who is checking you out? What could you say to people when you're passing them with your cart? You know, there's a lot going on this time of year where there's more shopping to do, there's more places to go. There's people everywhere. It's about just making eye contact. You know, smiling, saying hello. Unfortunately, with the epidemic, that even no one could see your smile. No one could see a smile.
So you're saying simple connection, because we were talking about that low energy and people hate us or you hate them or all that negative energy. Like, I don't want to talk to people because they don't like me. They don't want to hear from me. I'm feeling down, depressed, anxious. How do I get over that mindset where they don't want to hear me? They don't want to hear from me. Or I think they do.
Self-talk, yeah, negative self-talk is a big one. It's a skill. Everything is a skill. Being grateful is a skill. Forgiveness is a skill. Happiness is a skill, meaning I can learn about it. I can read about it. I can listen to podcasts like you have. Happy Brain. How do I get a happy brain? I listen to a podcast. I read a book. I get ideas. I ask for help. You know, there's these things that we can do. So we learn about it first, then we practice. We apply the one small little thing. Take one thing that we've been talking about today and just one small thing. Like when someone calls me, I'll answer the phone.
Ooh.
When we're anxious and depressed, we don't want to answer the phone. And just practicing answering the phone is one small thing to practice and apply to connection and a relationship.
So these, I know you like to talk about like life transitions and how you can overcome different things like divorce, addiction, struggles with remarriage and things like that. So these sound like some starting insights to help this transition. It sounds like something that's, you know, these are steps that you can take.
Yes, because the relationships you attract are similar to the relationship you have with yourself. So if I am telling myself I'm a piece of crap, I'm not good enough, those are the kinds of friendships and relationships I'm going to attract. So I had a mentor. I definitely needed help. I could not do life I needed help. I had to reach out to help. There is help out there. You can ask people for help, and it's surprising, even free help. It is available. It's just we have too much pride to even ask. I I had free help, I had paid help, I had professional help, I had church help. I started asking for help because I was not getting anywhere on my own help. And I had a mentor who told me to start talking to myself in the mirror, out loud in the mirror, so that I could practice hearing my mind while I'm looking into my eyes say nice things. It's harder than you think. Yeah, once you start, I mean, I remember somebody saying, "Look into your eyes and say I love you." And I've had many clients report back saying they just started crying.
Mm.
And I think if you have that, if you have a big emotional release, or you look into your eyes and you literally can't say it, there must be some unconscious negative self talk you may not even be aware of, that you are just slamming yourself every day, abusing yourself. And so this is a way to start kind of acknowledging, where am I at when I look in the eyes, what I see in the mirror, where am I at? Because it's really important too to admit where we're at. Where am I at with my relationship with myself? And
So
yeah,
if you can't, or if you practice looking in the mirror and saying, "Hey, I love you, man." I guess, guys, it's hard to say I love you, so I would throw in man, buddy, whatever, right? I love you, buddy. You know, that's a starting point. But anyway, if you can do that, is it going to be easier to go to the grocery store and look at somebody in the eyes and just have that thought, that feeling? It's, "Hi, how are you?" And you know that you feel it yourself. So I'm sharing some of that with somebody else.
like I said, it's a skill. It's a skill to practice. It might be scary to say hello to somebody. We we started looking down. We started being afraid of people with the epidemic. So we were taught, don't even, you might catch something from that person. Don't even look over there. I found myself doing it too. With the mask on, I wouldn't look at people. I was like, I was looking down, and then it was kind of like, ooh, I don't want to be around people because they're going to get me sick and then I could die. And,
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a hospital. So there was
I
a
can't
real
imagine that.
fear. There was a real fear there. And so we have to, again, have hope and trust
Oh,
and
now,
trust the
Melanie,
process.
I know that you've taken a lot of these thoughts and things we're talking about and you put them into a book. Happiness, happy, joyous, and free. And love your life no matter what. So even when we're in our low places and we're starting to realize that, as you mentioned before, that we're not really where we want to be, how do we start to love the life that we want? How do we start to get to that happiness, happy, joyous, and free state? I mean, what made you sit down and write this?
Again, I was in a lot of emotional pain. I felt spiritually bankrupt. I was hurting, and I was determined to find a solution. I wanted to change. I got so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was searching and looking for a solution, and I've found one, and it's not over. I have to keep doing it. I love the phrase, you can't stay clean on yesterday's shower. I have to keep practicing these principles that keep me and prepare me for those moments that surprise me, because life will surprise you. It will show up, and there's going to be things that Melanie doesn't like, because Melanie wants what Melanie wants. And when life shows up and it doesn't look my way, the way I want it to look, that can just start me down a downward spiral of ungratefulness, of selfishness, of fear, and that starts a behavior pattern. It starts when I start having those kind of thoughts that I can't accept the way something is. I go down this rabbit hole of I'm unhappy. And once I can recognize and be aware that that's what's going on, oh, I have a choice here. And that's empowering when we can actually be the observer and be curious about where our thoughts take us. Then we actually have the power to choose. We have agency to choose something different. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it means that you probably need help. You need outside help, because we have the results in the current results that we have in our life are our own doing. So if you don't like the results of where your brain is, of where your health is, of where your relationships are, or where your pocketbook, your money, if you don't like those results, then those results are from your own thinking. So you can broaden your perspective by asking for help, by collecting more information. It means you can't get anywhere different on the same thinking.
Well, let me say this. You talked a lot about body language. Well, as we're talking, if you're listening to this and you're not seeing it, as you're talking, you're moving forward. I can feel the passion of what you're talking about. It really, really comes through. So I may be answering my own question, but what is your passion now? What is Melanie passionate about? And I have some sense of it, but I want to hear more.
I am passionate about helping people in their relationships, their dating relationships, their marriage relationships. I love relationship problems. I know there is a solution, and it's hard to hear the truth sometimes, but I believe that if you're not the problem, there is no solution. And I want to help. I believe in marriage. I want to help people stay married. And if it's not right to stay married, I want to help you attract the right kind of relationship. I've been divorced and remarried, and it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey. And I personally believe we're here to have relationship. I really believe that. I believe it's important. I believe that relationships actually refine us. Even if you're happy being single, there are relationships that you are here to be a part of. So that's just where I'm at. And that's why I loved that Surgeon General awareness of it. That is the answer to this epidemic of loneliness and isolation, is relationships and connections. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be married, or it doesn't have to be that kind of relationship. I just believe in that relationship. I think there's things about marriage and living with another person that refines you and changes you, and if used in the right way can transform you for the better. It shows us where our weaknesses are to say the least, when you live with someone, and it's so easy to point the finger and see their weakness because if you can see someone else's weakness, believe me, they can see yours. But we don't want to talk about my weakness. I want to say, let me tell you about my husband's weakness, right?
Well, let me ask you this, kind of circling back. You said you've been remarried. So your second marriage, had you done a lot of the work to get to a place where you weren't blaming anybody as much? Were you in a different place, and is this relationship obviously a lot healthier? Is there a big change between first marriage and second marriage?
Absolutely. There is a big difference. And somehow I was able to stay in my first marriage and learn the lessons I needed to learn to attract a better marriage. So I knew there was a problem, and I was able to do the work staying married. My life wasn't threatened. And it felt like it was. Believe me, I played the victim really good, really good. And somehow, I feel like it's grace that I had the courage to stay in a marriage and apply these lessons and these tools so that I could grow and I could change and I could transform even in the worst circumstances as I perceived them, and practice loving somebody, choosing to love somebody, behaving and applying that love and gratitude towards another human being. And that's what I think helped attract a different person. I really was able to learn the lessons and practice in the trenches. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we just leave a situation without really getting a chance to practice with somebody that we perceive as hard to practice with. So I have to say that the grace of God was with me, because it was a power greater than myself. I mean, there's no other way to say it. When you are hopeless and powerless and full of anger and blame, how do you just snap of a finger be willing to work at it? And so that was just the gift that was given to me, to really be willing to be in a little more pain to practice these principles that we've been talking about and learning about, and really building my self-esteem and my confidence and my self-love up for myself when it felt hard in a environment and in a relationship that felt like it was doing the opposite. And something about boundaries, there's a lot of books out there about how to have boundaries, and my trick for that is when you raise your self-esteem, when you raise your positive self-talk, when you know who you are and what your purpose is, and you love yourself, no one will treat you less than the way you treat yourself. Now, people might still say things, but it's really interesting. After practicing this for about 10, 13 years, I don't attract, there's just different people that I attract in my life. There's different people that want to be friends with me than what I was attracting before. And I know that has something to do with just it becomes automatic. The boundaries start becoming automatic. when you love yourself enough and you respect yourself enough, you're not going to put up with crap. You just don't. And there's something about your body language that says she won't fall for that. She's not going to, people don't even try. People can read body language. We don't talk a lot about the language we give out, these, because subconsciously, you can read somebody's body language. You see them, it's like, oh, that person's happy, that person is in a bad mood. They don't even have to say anything. You can just read it, that yeah, walk the other direction. We just know.
What I'm hearing is that in your situation, you did the growth, you did the best you could in the relationship, and maybe got to a point where maybe that person just didn't match you. Maybe it just wasn't going to work. You've grown, you've loved yourself more and you wanted more than the relationship could give. Doesn't mean that person's a bad person. Just maybe it just wasn't a match.
That's kind of the conclusion.
Can you outgrow a relationship?
I know that my first husband and I did everything we both could to make it work. We really did. And I do agree that I loved him enough to let him go. I loved myself enough to let him go. And I did pray and meditate upon it for 3 years. And I would say this little phrase to me, can I stay married just for today? And I would just focus on this moment, this present moment. And so sometimes you have to just break it down to that. Can I stay married just for today? And more keeps being revealed. And I think it's just when a lot of us, or I was closed. I had a closed mind because I had already made up my mind. This isn't going to work. He's a jerk. Lots of blaming. And when I stopped doing that and I was open, and I could set aside what I thought was wrong and just was open to hearing something different and practicing something different, I got something different. And I had more love. I have still more love and forgiveness and acceptance, because if you have children, you are going to have a relationship with that person that you have children with. Usually it doesn't go away. And so it's been beautiful to have a relationship with him and feel love for him. And it didn't just happen overnight. Like I said, I worked on it while I was married. Divorce is not pretty. It is not fun. It is a death of a dream. No one dreams or has a goal to get divorced later on. It's very painful. No matter if even if it's a good thing, it still hurts. It hurts a lot and it's painful. So we went through where it was very difficult to talk. He did not want to talk to me. It was I know he was in pain. I was in pain. And I practiced being professional and polite. And as time went on, even that pain was healed. And we sit next to each other at our teenagers' football games. And we both have, other relationships today. And it's more than just professional and polite.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And we're able to talk about things we don't always see eye to eye. And it's okay. It's okay.
We've gotten a little deeper today than we normally do, which is exactly what I want, because all these things we're talking about, these happy brain, these tips and tricks and stuff, you have to get to a point where you can start to use them, or start to use them to get to a point where you can start to grow, right? So sometimes, like your smile trick where you put your pen in your mouth, maybe that'll give you a little ounce of energy to go talk to Melanie, to like, oh, reach out, just to, okay, I can feel a little bit better. So I really appreciate kind of this conversation. I was going to get into, some of your practical tips, or not practical tips, like on tapping. There's a whole world of EFT to kind of start this journey. So if I've gone to level 1 where I'm starting to feel self-love, looking in the mirror, I guess is another step or a progression to start getting into more deeper things like EFT, which people can start to learn about.
EFT.
When am I ready for EFT?
EFT is emotion freedom technique tapping. There are so many free tapping scripts online. Tapping is another thing that has been proven to lower cortisol. It is also incredible for PTSD, for trauma, for deep-seated childhood stuff that we've pushed down so far we don't even remember it, right? EFT can just be a superficial way to just calm the nervous system. They've proven that just one tapping session is beneficial, and that it has actually lasting results. They've proven that 6 EFT sessions can permanently heal your PTSD and trauma. I personally have helped many women with physical or sexual abuse heal through tapping. So this is something that, if it was just a way to manage emotions, just day-to-day emotions, like just something as little as like, I don't want to get out of bed, I hate my job, something like that. EFT, this tapping, could help you manage your emotions, because what it's doing is it's helping you acknowledge, I really am angry, I really am stressed, I really feel. Actually, we don't want to say I am, we want to say I feel, because feelings are not facts, they're not our identity, they are a signal. I always think of feelings as a signal. They're trying to tell us something, they need something, there's information there. So it's, I feel stressed, I feel upset, I feel depressed. It is not who you are. Mm-hmm. It is a signal. It needs something. So all of us need to get better at managing emotions. So EFT is for everyone and anyone. I've even taught my son how to use it in athletic situations where, and tapping is using Eastern medicine, the same energy system as acupuncture uses. It uses meridians, so it's an energy flow in the body that Eastern medicine practices. So it can help with physical problems, it can help with emotional problems, and that's what it's been used for centuries. And so I've taught athletes, and my son included, that tapping can turn on places in your mind, in your brain, that help you perform better in your sport. And all of us, before a game, can get that kind of negative self-talk, right? So we can also tap into positive self-talk. We can tap into somebody else's positive self-talk. Like, let's say I can't believe that I can perform, what if I tap into the person I admire and respect the most in my sport, and I can tap into that energy, and it's been great in athletic to perform better athletically. So it can do all kinds
Uh,
of things. Anyone
can you
who's
tap?
listening, yeah,
Can you tap your way like you're going on a date, and you want to bring that energy and that good body language and all that? Can you tap before meeting somebody, a date or whatever occasion it is? Kind of like a sporting event, but more for personal connection.
oh, absolutely. Because it again, it's emotional management. So before a date, there's a lot of emotions going on, and we don't want emotions to control us, right? We want to be in control of our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. And when we start managing those and collecting information about that and making choices, then you're going to get different results. And so it is a wonderful tool. And I want to invite anyone who's listening to this, you can get a free consult. Bring your problems, your relationship problems, your feelings, and I promise you by the end of it, you'll see how tapping works, and we'll have at least a small solution that to apply to whatever problem you have.
I love it. And that's what I was going to ask you is how do we learn more about Melanie? And you have a website that will definitely link here. Is that the best way to connect with you?
Absolutely. happyjoyousandfree.org. You can make a free consultation on that website. And there is a free EFT script on the website, so you can check that out.
Got it. I had the misconception that EFT was more complicated and like you had to be in a different, more advanced place to really embrace these tools, but it doesn't sound like it. It can help anybody at any time.
And children.
Children.
It is easy to do. You can't do it wrong. You can't mess it up. So even doing it wrong, it might not be effective, but it's definitely not going to hurt anybody. And that's why there's actually a lot of teenagers and children that are hurting themselves, working in the hospital. It broke my heart, the younger and younger and younger children coming in for drug and alcohol abuse, for suicide attempts, for mental and
Cutting.
emotional.
Do you see people kind of cutting themselves?
Younger and younger. And it is, our young people need direction. Our young people need to know how to handle emotions. So this is an excellent tool for that kind of thing.
Well, let me ask you this last question here. What practical tip do you believe can help people make a positive change on our society?
I want to go back to hope. I believe, if there is this epidemic of loneliness and isolation, it means that people are going inside, drawing away, and that's exactly the opposite. And I think we do that when we feel hopeless and powerless. And so I just want to give people hope that there is a solution. And there are people that want to help. I think most people, if someone asks them for help, they would give it. I think it's inside of us to want to help. A lot of times we don't know how to help, but I really believe if somebody asked you for help, you would want to help. It's natural. It's in our instincts. Except we've gotten so withdrawn that we don't ask for help. And so we would rather cut or drink or use food to stay lonely, to numb those feelings, instead of answering the phone, instead of calling someone else, And we just have these short phrases of like, oh, how are you? And we have a short phrase back, fine, great. And really we need to find other questions to ask.
I'd love to end on that. That is a lot of hope, and I think a lot of us needed to hear this today in this lack of connection world sometimes. So Melanie, thank you so much.
Thank you for spreading more ways to have a happy brain. I love it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Happy Brain. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you have an extra second, leave us an honest review over on iTunes or your Apple podcasting app. And until next time, my friends, keep that brain of yours happy.